Hi Mumfessionals. Today I want to talk about women in sales. I remember when I was working with my apparel brand, we had about 8 girl designers, and I would always tell them to go and spend some time on the floor, get to know the customers, get to know different body types, so that when they come back and they design, they think of those people in the designing process. And I always felt that they were very hesitant in doing that because we culturally don't feel comfortable in sales positions. So we have Sadia Nasir today. So Sadia is the sales director at GSK Personal Healthcare. Consumer Healthcare. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Can you share a little bit about your journey and your background?
Okay, so I think I've been in the business for I think about 17, 18 years. I started my career with Unilever. So I was there for a good 10 years. And I worked in sales initially, in trade marketing, then in brands. Then for a brief stint, I moved to a local company, Engro Foods, again in marketing. And from there, I've currently been in GSK. It's been about 6 years. And I came on as marketing director. And then just last year, I switched to sales. And on the personal front, I'm married. I have 2 kids. My daughter is 11 and my son is 9.
Wow.
So it's a handful, yeah. So lot going on, but it's a lot of fun as well.
So tell me your number one question. You have worked throughout, you've had 2 kids. What were some of the major challenges that you felt?
So look, when I think back, in terms of 17, 18 years, the number seems, it seems a long time. But if I start off in my career, I want to say this, and I think this is important, and when you talk across, especially to different women who are listening, that I started off not with a career intention. I started off thinking that I'm doing a job, and that in terms of a short term, I always thought that when my daughter or my son reaches this age, this class, I will quit and take time off and be at home. I never envisioned that I would be certainly not heading sales. Our company is a large size company in terms of its turnover. It's a large size in terms of the people I manage, more than 80 people, 100 plus. And
these are pharmaceutical salespeople we're talking about.
And this is though we deal in consumer healthcare, so products like Panadol, Sensodyne, those are our flagship brands. But sales is sales. End of the day, it's black or
and
it's
dealing
white.
with distributors.
And distributors, customers, trade. But coming back to your question, I think when I started, so my foundation I think was excellent. But somewhere along the line, you realize that what you do, I think it's really important that you enjoy what you do, and you feel that you're learning and you're contributing. And you realize that it's scary, but you can, if you hang in there long enough, you can pull it off and you can, continue going. And then after a while, the time goes by, and if you have a good support system around you, and that means professionally and personally, I think it gives women the strength and need that courage that you can continue. And then it transitioned into a career, and hence a switch from marketing to sales, because that's something which I really pushed myself in my comfort zone. After 6 years, heading brands, I realized that if I truly am looking at a career and I want to grow, then I need to get out of my comfort zone, But in that, it's not easy. There are many days of self-doubt. You feel, can you do it? Because sales is so male-dominated, and especially in multinationals. There are very few women who've headed sales. And the thought of going from a lovely team of 8 young marketers to a team of 80 plus, mostly all men, dealing in terms of trade and being responsible for sales day in and day out, was really scary. It had a lot of self-doubt, a lot of days where I said, I can't do this, am I sure? It requires a lot on your time because of travel, and it's not some fun, travel all parts of the country. But luckily, it's been a fantastic learning experience, and it's been a, tough journey.
So Sadia, I want to ask you, because this is something that I have, I've heard many women complain about. The thing that the way you look, you're gorgeous. And you look very young. So when you're amongst these distributors, in the
customers or trade
customers, how does that is that something that bothers you, challenges you? How do you deal with it?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. No one's really asked me that. I think so. Look, when I took on the role, when you get into the role, and there's so much going on, right? You yourself, because it's yourself, you don't realize it. And again, the roles are different. In marketing, you're used to working with agencies, creative partners, etc. And it's a cultural, you will see a lot of women in marketing. I think when it came to sales, and I remember, when I was out in the field and when we met our customers and partners, initially that did throw me off because I realized that
Did you get any of those comments?
So I did get those comments, quite a few of them. I still get them, time to time. But I think, because what you don't realize is unlike a man who just start talking about our business and objectives, for women, especially again maybe in sales, you need to take time to kind of introduce yourself or / prove your credentials. But what I learned over time is in the beginning I was very that, well, I'm Sadia, I've been here in 18 years and I've been in sales and, I've just joined, as in I've just switched to sales. And after a while I stopped doing that because I remember one of my team members, he came up to me and he said, look, you don't need to justify how long you've been here. And that was interesting. And you don't need to, because the men who start, you don't need to give them a whole bio data. You just talk about work, and have that confidence. And if they have questions, they'll ask. So the next time when I had my meetings with our customers, partners, etc., I would just start into, hi, how are you? And then let's, after pleasantries in terms of get down to business, like any other male colleague of mine would. So during the breaks or later to my colleagues, they would ask that, well, is she heading the entire company of the sales? Is she heading a brand? And then we'd have a laugh. And then slowly, once you develop a relationship, you have that partnership, then obviously by now it's 2 years almost in the job and they realize. But yeah, it does, I think, throw people off. But within 5 minutes of meeting, you realize that it's not male, female, it's just work. I'm here to work. You're here to work and, so let's just get down to business.
You get over it.
Yeah. And it's also in terms of, I think, how you communicate. But I think, for the women out there, I would definitely say, and this is something which I remember, I had picked up someone some time ago. I think it's definitely in terms of how you portray yourself and how we communicate. And in that, and I tell all that in terms of, younger female, working members, etc., that how a situation in terms of everything from how you dress to how you talk, these things are very important. I see that a lot today that, it does matter how you present yourself in a professional setting. It does matter what the kind of clothes you're wearing. So these things go a long way. I think we need to be, sensitive to our surroundings. So if you're in a market visit somewhere in Kohat, it'll be different to a market visit in Karachi. So those things, and if you want to be taken seriously, whether you like it or whether you don't, how you dress, how you look, and how you talk are important. So you must carry yourselves, carry that with you. It's not just the same everywhere.
So tell us about sales, the job itself.
So I never thought I would say this, and I remember, 2 years, a year and a half, I started sales in Jan 1st. So in Jan it'll be 2 years exactly. So there was a lot of talk in terms before that, you should have in terms of if you want to grow and stretch. So if you want to have a career and develop, you need to stretch and get out of your comfort zone. So 5-6 years in marketing was developing into a comfort zone. I could do the work with my eyes shut, and I wasn't feeling that challenge, but I was also in a good spot. It wasn't that anyone was telling me that, look, you have to do this and you have a deadline. But I went about it, spoke to in terms of line manager, key stakeholders, and I said that, look, I think I'm ready to move. And at that time, there was a talk of 2 years before that, why don't you go to sales? But, for women, I'll tell you what, when you're ready. When you're ready to take on that next jump. When you're ready to take time off. You need to listen to yourself. And I knew I was ready at that time, and I said that, look, I'm ready for this opportunity, and it was brilliant that the company gave me that opportunity. As scared as I was, as many doubts as you have, but whatever level you get, you will have doubts every day, whether you can be as good as you want to be, whether you can succeed. I was, I think, initially terrified that what if I don't meet my first month sales target? What will I be do? Will I be exposed? Because marketing is very different, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You look at shares, you look at, insights. It's just, and I was like, what if the people I lead, it's a large sales team. What if we just don't deliver? 30th, first of every month, the results are up. And I said, how will I do this for 12 months or, into number of years? But you realize that it's not just yourself, it's an entire support system. You have to have good people, good sponsors. You have to have people you work with who, encourage you, I think, who motivate you and who believe in you. And the other thing I would say is that, in terms of sales, because then again, nature of the job, travel, etc., it's much tougher. I think, for all the ladies, you really need to have a good support system. Because I think if you don't have that support system, then it makes it that much harder.
So tell me something, while listening to you, I'm also thinking that there are very few companies who are also so sensitive to women. Most of them are not. So, and we are 50% of the population. Yeah. So given or being in that situation, what would you or how would you advise these women to make these choices and go about it?
You know, it's changing now in the last couple of years. The CVs I get, not CVs, or when you see on LinkedIn or requests in terms of referrals, it's a much more conscious effort now you get, whether it's, different industries, that we want women in sales. So people will reach out and say, hey, do you have a CV for a sales manager or a senior level, etc. And I think more and more companies are realizing that diversity, having women there in roles other than the traditional marketing and so is beneficial, and is, whether it's a global agenda, local, they are looking for that, right? Having more women there in terms of sales, it's changing now. So I would encourage it that, and again, it's also hierarchies. I'm conscious that someone working at a more senior overall level might have different challenges to someone at a grassroots or mid-level, right? But again, the company you work in, environment does matter. I won't say that you need to work with good people around you. You need to have people who respect you in terms as a professional.
So Sadia, that was an incredible talk. Just before we finish, are there any sort of tips or suggestions that you could give out to the Mumfessionals if they are considering, or should they consider the transition from the traditional roles into non-traditional roles? How can they go about it?
So look, I wouldn't say the usual, of course, there is always believe in yourself, etc. But I would say that strongly, if you feel that you have an idea, an opportunity, and you think you can, in terms of which is outside your comfort zone, I would highly encourage all of you to go for it. Given that, there are days when you will fail or not do so well, and there are days when you will do incredibly well. And there are days when you will say that I want to go back to my comfort of the job I knew. But I can guarantee you this much, that overall you will walk away feeling much more satisfied. Your learning curve would be far steeper, and your overall value in terms of the employment market would definitely increase tenfold. Today, the biggest difference you see when jobs come up or postings come up, there are two resumes. One is more done sales, done marketing, overall has been out of their comfort zone. Not even sales, marketing. I don't know. It can be supply chain, finance. It can be anything, right?
So
and
more
one is just
well-rounded.
rounded, and one is just 10 years in one block. As an employer, when you look at the more well-rounded one, it will teach you a lot more in terms of competencies, how to deal with different situations. So, that way I think, and if you have, like I said, a good support system, which I think is important at work and at home, then definitely go for it.
Thank you so much, Sadia. Mumfessionals, thank you again for being with us. I hope you enjoyed that. Till next time.